Dr. Dayasagar Rao, endoscopic bariatric surgery is being increasingly used in obese HFpEFs with reasonably good results, not the conventional bariatric surgery. So what is your comment on that?
Actually, this, this bariatric surgery, one of the methods is there has been a decrease in the obesity, and consequently the visceral adiposity has been decreasing it. Although there have been some hormonal changes favorably, we really do not know how it really improves it. But these are all the conjectures that have been done, that there's an improvement in the visceral fat and a decrease in the inflammation and favorable response of the cardiovascular system.
Dr. Dayasagar, the ACL2 inhibitor, which has got a multi-target actions, and in case of HFrEF. So do you feel that this is just a suppressing that, or it is a curative one?
No, actually it is these changes have been known. Actually, as a matter of fact, there's an echocardiographic study of the SGLT2 inhibitors in patients with restrictive cardiomyopathy, and they have consistently shown that administration of SGLT2 inhibitors, empagliflozin, has resulted in the resting E prime velocity, in the sense that E prime velocity, which was only about 4 or 5, has increased to 7 or 8 during the administration of the SGLT2 inhibitors. So there is a positive benefit. There is a hemodynamic basis for improving the diastolic function of the ventricle, and consequently the LA pressure. There is a definite proof. And the large clinical trials of empagliflozin and dapagliflozin, probably dapagliflozin we are still yet to receive by way of delivered trial, but the SOLOIST trial using sotagliflozin, which is not only SGLT2 inhibitor but also SGLT1 inhibitor, they have been shown that basically they do improve the clinical outcomes. It's not only a laboratory test improvement, but it also results in clinical improvement in exercise capacity. But we are not sure whether it's going to change the cardiac mortality and total mortality.
I think one of the important reasons why SGLT2 trials have been positive is they decrease interstitial edema, so that even if you don't alter the structure or the function of the myocardial fibrils, the diastolic function will improve. And all trials which have been negative, they acted through neurohormonal modulation. SGLT2 inhibitors, at least it does not predominantly act through neurohormonal modulation.
Actually, this is one of the reasons there was a time when people used to think that SGLT2 inhibitors are nothing but a super diuretics, which is a mistake. Because when you administer a diuretic, it decreases the circulating blood volume and activates the renin-angiotensin system, which the SGLT2 inhibitors do not do it. Basically because, as Dr. Manoria has said, it's a decrease in the interstitial fluid rather than the circulating blood volume. So it is not a super diuretic, but it is a method of action is totally different.
So that means the SGLT2 inhibitor is a miracle drug in the treatment of HFrEF.
I think as things stand today, I'm going to prescribe a diuretic smaller dose, combine it with a SGLT2 inhibitor as the first line of treatment for symptomatic patients with heart failure with preserved ejection fraction. Not to forget about aggressive treatment of comorbid conditions like hypertension, diabetes, and obesity.
The benefits of SGLT2 inhibitors in HFpEF is incremental but not monumental, because it failed to show reduction in CV death, failed to show reduction
Sure, that's what I said.
Failed to show renal benefits, failed to decrease total hospitalization. So the benefits are there, but still many things are to be achieved.
It is not a disease-modifying drug.
Okay.
It does not decrease the mortality. But one of the important things of treatment of heart failure is first improve the symptoms, improve the quality of life, which they do. Although they do not change the mortality, they do prevent recurrent hospitalization, which is a very expensive affair for the patient. So it has got a specific role. As things stand today, probably small dose of diuretics and appropriate dosage of SGLT2 inhibitors is most useful in the therapy of heart failure with preserved ejection fraction.
Any other questions from the audience, or any chat box, or any from speakers?
We can summarize the session. We had a wonderful session on HFpEF. The last decade has witnessed spectacular advances in HFpEF, both in terms of enhanced understanding and in the availability of newer therapeutic options. The pathophysiology of HFpEF can be easily demystified in the current era by a panoply of investigative modalities of treatment. HFpEF no longer remains an orphan disease. We have newer drugs which are improving its outcome. We have empagliflozin, which has shown improved outcomes in the Emperor Preserved. We have the tafamidis for thyrostatin amyloidosis. We have mepacentin for HFpEF due to hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. So at least we have 3 sets of drugs which are improving the outcome of HFpEF. Otherwise, prior to these 2 drugs, HFpEF was orphan disease, and we could do only very little on only benefit these patients by symptomatic treatment. We hope more newer therapies would come, and I'm sure all of you enjoyed the flashes of expertise during the discourse of a galaxy of speakers of national and international repute.
Dr. Manoria, yeah,
Yeah,
I just want to ask one thing and
your internet
experience.
goes away.
HFpEF has been shown to have almost similar morbidity and mortality in Western literature. I have seen, and most of our colleagues have seen, that HFpEF probably is not that as bad as HFrEF. Do you want to share some experience on that? Because we have these patients who keep coming for years and years. They have frequent hospitalization, they have frequent morbidity. But is there any Indian data or Indian registry to say yes or no against this?
See, unless we have a registry or a real world data, it's very difficult to see.
There are 2 large heart failure trials ongoing. One is the Trivandrum Heart Failure Registry, and the other one is the Indian College of Cardiology Registry done by Dr. Jayagopal. They are only collecting the data still. They are still analyzing the mortality. I'm fully aware of that, and but then it requires a long-term follow-up in the sense that 5 years to 10 years. It does not, it doesn't tell us much when your follow-up is only about 6 months to 1 year or 2 years. So we are still in the process of, at least now we can say there is some data regarding the outcome of
what's your gut feeling? Say you have been treating heart failure for ages.
No, but the problem here is, I think for quite some time, we were reluctant to make a diagnosis of a heart failure with disordered ejection fraction. Because there are no set down. Before the era of tissue Doppler, it was still a groping in the dark. We said the patient has got a heart failure, and then we have been giving diuretics and nothing else. So only now we have been identifying the group with a bit of confidence. And now we have about, if you see the recent, universal definition of heart failure published in 2021, March in JACC failure, systemic congestion or pulmonary congestion along with structural and functional abnormalities and NT-proBNP. These 3 factors, at least 2 out of the 3 have to be present. So first of it is a clinical one. So clinical diagnosis is not going to be easy by many unless you really make an examination.
But if you look even at the Emperor Preserved, the data for Asians is much better, Dr. Rajeev. Asians benefited much more.
Sure. No, Asians benefited much more, But then the problem here is identifying that group as a specific group. I think if you really see the age prediction of these patients, as you move towards beyond 50 years, that the percentage of patients with heart failure with preserved ejection fraction becomes more and more. And our patients are still, most of them are in the, what we call 35 to 55 years. So that group, mostly we are seeing reduced ejection fraction, mostly as a consequence of premature and severe coronary artery disease. I think if you collect the patients about beyond the age of 70, then only we will have a lot of patients with heart failure with reduced ejection fraction.
Okay, thank you.